Hello, my name is Shane Delavin, and this is Obtaining, Retaining, and Recognizing Volunteers for MDS Project Capstone 495. The problem to identify is the medieval combat society I take part in relies heavily on volunteer investments to keep our local chapters and national events running. At this time, our volunteer count has dropped steadily within the community, and I believe that this is due to the lack of distributed recognition via extrinsic rewards or verbal support and praise on a visible platform. The project goal is to assess generated options and integrated solutions and determine the most effective option that promotes positive recognition or incentive needed for volunteer work within the medieval combat community. I possess a strong opinion on the matter of volunteerism and the propagation of volunteer culture. This community not only reaps the generic benefits of volunteer culture, free time, cost, resources, but it ultimately depends on volunteers to function on a national level and local level. With the current trend of volunteer fatigue and burnout, and seeing no distinguishing plans on the national or local level to address this trend, it is vital to begin searching for options to hinder burnout while also developing better methods of retaining volunteers. As a postgraduate goal, I plan to stay in this organization as long as I am physically able. I have been a member of this community for 8 years, and currently I am in a position that holds me to a higher expectation than other members. Because of my personal station, the community expects me to be a steward of leadership and a champion of innovation to the best of my ability. I find no greater reason in this opportunity presented at the end of my educational journey to give back to this medieval combat society that has given so much back to me. Combating volunteer burnout and engagement has been a major problem for as long as I've been a part of the medieval combat society. The community currently has no infrastructure built to detail how big or small our volunteer pool is at any given time. However, the strain and burden of the lack of volunteers can be felt as national or regional events struggle to operate and local chapters have difficulty finding leaders to run for chapter president or other council positions. As I recognize and understand the problem further, it is systemic on a national level. Some local chapters have placeholder solutions to drum up volunteer support to run events or local chapters. However, most of these solutions are non-sustainable and tend to peer pressure groups of community members into being the de facto volunteer pool. The existing either-or solution to combat volunteer burnout or recognizing individuals putting in positive efforts are inconsistent and vary depending on where you go on a regional level. The most well-known solution to address volunteer fatigue through extrinsic rewards is the national presidential recognitions. However, there is a threshold to be met to qualify for these awards, and they tend not to be given towards the bulk of volunteers who continually contribute. In contrast to the presidential awards, Boise's chapter participates in a recognition system specifically aimed towards members within the local community. These are identified as local recognitions and are very unique given that not many realms participate in their own award process for their local community. The drawback of the local recognitions for Boise is that they also act as a lifetime achievement but have the benefit of being more personal and directly tied to the member's impact on their chapter. That being said, I have directly seen the positive impact both of these recognitions impart upon their recipients, and I hope to continue a similar trend on a national stage. The stakeholders influenced by these either-or proposals include all members of the medieval combat society community, since all members can contribute to the volunteering efforts. That being said, there is an added emphasis on members that are directly in harm's way of the volunteer burnout trend. The first solution I have determined involves creating a new nationally recognized merit that physically symbolizes the medieval combat community's shared values of supporting volunteers and celebrating exceptional members. This new recognition is born from the hidden gem model, and by recognizing this merit on a national level from the board of directors while being distributed and motivated by local chapter leadership members, it combines two distinct models into a new solution. This solution also opens the door to creating a more defined path for members to follow in gaining recognition. This idea was reached by determining the need for accessibility and weight to promote recognition for the daily work that makes our community thrive. The solution can be implemented twofold. Either the board of directors adopts this proposal and is automatically enacted on a national level, or the proposal would be submitted to the War Council and put to a vote to be legislated by the voting chapters with a majority ruling of support. The second solution requires a much larger upheaval of current beliefs within the medieval combat community. However, if the solution did come to fruition, it would change how the entire community operates on a national level. The solution is to instill a national mandate requiring all chapters to adopt annual member dues. By creating a scenario in which all chapters are now able to accumulate and save their own capital through member dues, the chapters would technically have more autonomy and flexibility to compensate their volunteers with monetary incentives. The idea is that this monetary incentive would go to volunteer positions for the individual chapter council, like presiding president, vice president, secretary, etc. This model represents a double-down method and takes the model of an annual member dues mandate and incorporates the workaround for unique chapter situations that are university affiliated or where the chapter membership base doesn't have enough individual wealth to pay dues. This idea came from the current status that not all chapters require member dues and in turn cannot support themselves financially. If a chapter were to collect member dues, the garnered wealth could be used to support volunteer positions with stipends or other extrinsic motivations. To make this solution into a reality, a proposal would need to be submitted to the War Council and put to a vote to be legislated by the voting chapters with a majority ruling of support. This is a difficult proposition since many chapters have opposing viewpoints on promoting member dues. The third potential integrative solution involves focusing directly on the event coordinator's ability to give extrinsic rewards to volunteers on a consistent and meaningful basis, while also integrating the role of a volunteer manager into the event staff. This solution only focuses on the issue of generating volunteer support during local and national events, which may seem narrow focus, but is nonetheless still an integral part of creating a functioning medieval community. By having a structured volunteer system, tangible and immediately beneficial rewards for volunteers, and consistent buy-in from the event coordinators, this solution would offer a quick remedy to retaining volunteers and hindering volunteer burnout. This solution would require convincing individual event coordinators to take on new positions of volunteer manager and to offer extrinsic rewards to event volunteers. The support for this integrative action would benefit a lead-by-example approach wherein a small pool of participating event coordinators could influence other event coordinators like a domino effect. In conclusion, the problem is volunteer burnout and reduced volunteer retention or interest. The solutions provided, providing more extrinsic motivations, more visible recognition platforms, and creating a more structured environment for our volunteers. The postgraduate value of this project is using the skills and knowledge obtained with my personal educational journey to give back to the community that has provided for me. Thank you.